Dear learners, in this lecture I am going to give you an overview of the most important plant process on earth that converts light to life. Yes, we are going to talk about the process of photosynthesis. This process converts light to life. I said photosynthesis is the most important plant process on earth because it gives us two most important things without which we cannot survive. First is food for energy. All forms of life, or a vast majority of life, including human beings, animals, birds, and aquatic life, they depend on the energy of sunlight that is stored uh, in organic molecules form for their food or for meeting their energy requirement. So this provides us food as well as oxygen. The source of all oxygen on our earth is mainly the process of photosynthesis. So the oxygen that we breathe in, it is the product of or byproduct of the process of photosynthesis. And besides these two important necessities, photosynthesis is also the main source of fossil fuels like coal and petroleum that were dumped some 200 million years ago. So, for these reasons, we say that photosynthesis is the most important plant process on Earth. We know some details of this process for almost 300 years, but the major advancement in the field of photosynthesis research was accomplished in the last 60 to 80 years when modern techniques and modern instruments were developed. Uh, now we have a better idea of what is going on within the plant. But still, photosynthesis or the plant's ability to photosynthesize is relatively less exploited trait. So the second green revolution that we are aiming for in order to meet uh, food production or food requirement for about 10 billion people by 2050, we need to focus on improving the process of photosynthesis. And the efforts are underway in various parts of the world, for example, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Netherlands, France, to advance our understanding about the process of photosynthesis and how can we improve it to realize a second green revolution. So this is a very important trait to be explored. Photosynthesis is derived from two words. Photo means light and synthesis means to put together or to synthesize something. So literally it means to synthesize something with the help of light. So this is the process by which certain organisms like plants, algae and cyanobacteria convert light energy into chemical energy. This chemical energy is stored as organic molecules. Then, by using that chemical energy stored in organic molecules, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and NADPH, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate hydrogen, we can fix carbon dioxide to make sugars. So the main ingredients for this process are carbon dioxide and water, which are converted to sugars, and a byproduct is oxygen uh, by using the energy from sun or sunlight, and that energy is absorbed by certain plant pigments and then funneled in an appropriate way to make useful things, pigments like chlorophyll. So plants take in carbon dioxide from atmosphere, water mainly from soil, and they produce sugars, and a byproduct is oxygen. About 10% of this oxygen is used in the process of respiration within the plant, and the rest 90% is exhaled by the plant that organisms like us can breathe in, and that is the basic requirement for our survival. Why plants uses carbon dioxide and water as raw material for synthesizing sugar? There are some very good reasons for which the plant utilizes carbon dioxide and water as raw material for this important plant process. Firstly, they are abundant in nature and they are cheap. So plant can take them easily because they are abundant in nature. A large part of our earth is covered by water and our atmosphere contains about 0.034% of carbon dioxide, and they are cheap because plants can take them without spending much energy. They can diffuse into plants easily and automatically from soil, air, or water. They are stable. Stable means they carry little energy in them. It means that a huge amount of energy can be stored in them. And the compounds that they make, for example, carbohydrates, although they are very energy rich and contain huge amounts of energy, but they are also stable because in order to release energy from them or in order to break them, we need high energy of activation. So this high energy of activation barrier makes them stable. So they are energy rich, but they are less reactive, and they are uh, non-toxic. Both the reactants and the products of photosynthesis are non-toxic and beneficial uh, for uh, different forms of life on Earth. So their abundance and because they are cheap and being able to diffuse into plants automatically and being stable and non-toxic, this makes them ideal raw material to be used in an important plant metabolic process like photosynthesis. Let me now write the complete or balanced equation of photosynthesis. So we need 3 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water to produce a 3 carbon sugar or triose phosphate. So the uh, actual product of photosynthesis is a 3 carbon sugar. You see here we have produced C3H6O3, that is a triose phosphate, a 3 carbon sugar, and to produce that we need 3 molecules of carbon dioxide. So glucose or sucrose are not the original or first products of photosynthesis. Remember that. And in this process, we are also producing oxygen that is important for our survival. Just to put things in perspective, I would like to mention what is the fate of this 3 carbon sugar that is being produced in this process of photosynthesis. This can be converted to starch within the chloroplast, but this is a reversible process. At any point in time, it can be converted back to simpler sugars. Secondly, this can be exported to cytoplasm uh, and used to make other things like glucose or sucrose, or which can be stored or which can be used in different metabolic reactions. And this triose phosphate can be used for regeneration of RUBP. RUBP is a 5 carbon sugar ribose 1,5 bisphosphate, and that is the first carbon dioxide acceptor molecule in DART reaction or in C3 cycle. So, in order to continue that cycle, we need to regenerate this RUBP. We will discuss this in more detail when we talk about Calvin cycle. So this is the fate of this triose phosphate or 3 carbon sugar that is produced in this process of photosynthesis. And one of the significant works that led us to this step was the work of C.B. Fanny, who was a Dutch microbiologist working on photosynthesis in bacteria in 1920s, and he gave us a basic equation that elaborated many things. He was studying the process of photosynthesis in certain bacteria, and he showed we choose sulfur or H2S, hydrogen sulfide, as an oxidizable compound. And this equation shows that you can substitute A for various things. For example, sulfur in certain bacteria, or oxygen in case of higher plants. This equation uh, gave us many important insights. Firstly, that photosynthesis is a two-step process. It is not a single-step process. In the first step, for example, in plants, two water molecules split to give one molecule of oxygen, four electrons, and four protons. Whereas in the second step, using those electrons and protons, carbon dioxide is reduced to sugars. And another important thing that was proposed by Fanny was that this oxygen, here you see, that comes from water and not carbon dioxide. Before this, it was believed that this oxygen that you see here or here, this comes from carbon dioxide because oxygen and carbon dioxide both are gases. So gas comes from gas, but Fanny proved that this oxygen comes from water, and we can subsidize this for various other things. For example, by sulfur in certain photosynthesizing bacteria. And second thing he proved was that it is a redox reaction. Photosynthesis is a redox reaction in which carbon from carbon dioxide is reduced and water is oxidized to produce sugar and oxygen. At that time, he called the first step in which the water molecules split to produce oxygen, electrons, and protons as light reaction, and the second step in which carbon dioxide is reduced he called as dark reaction. Let's talk about redox reaction. Oxidation is the loss of electrons. For example, here you see A is oxidized and B is reduced. So A transfers its electron to B. So A is oxidized and B is reduced. So B is an oxidizing agent which oxidized A, and A is a reducing agent which reduced B. We can also write this as transfer of proton, or it is the gain of oxygen. So the loss of electron or loss of proton or gain of oxygen uh, is oxidation, and the reverse of that is reduction. So in plants, these redox reactions are important because they move electron and because light energy is first converted into electrical energy and then to chemical energy. And in this redox reactions, carbon from carbon dioxide is being reduced and water is being oxidized. And remember this that this basic equation is a net reaction of photosynthesis. Actually, there are many reactions behind this equation. Scientists in the US, the UK, Australia, Netherlands, etc., they are focusing on 140 different steps where they can improve the process of photosynthesis. So this is just a photosynthetic equation is just a net reaction. And photosynthesis is not the reverse process of aerobic respiration. Both respiration and photosynthesis share the reactants and the products, yet they are different. Their steps, the enzymes involved, and the organelles involved are different uh, for photosynthesis and different for respiration. So, uh, although they share the reactants and the products, numerically we can write it as reverse process. But actually, photosynthesis is the complementary process of respiration. In photosynthesis, this is an endergonic and anabolic process in which the sunlight energy is converted into chemical energy, whereas respiration is a catabolic reaction in which the energy stored in the bonds of those energy rich compounds is released to be used in various processes within the plant. So photosynthesis and respiration are complementary processes, not the reverse process. As we discussed earlier that uh, the process of photosynthesis is a two-step process. First is called the light reaction, in which using the energy from sunlight, uh, plant produces an important byproduct that is oxygen, but also produces energy carriers and reducing powers, which we call as ATP and NADPH. ATP is a nucleotide adenosine triphosphate, and NADPH is nicotine, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. So this is the light reaction part or light dependent reaction. In second process, using these ATP and NADPH, the carbon dioxide is fixed to produce sugars. This was called as dark reaction by Cipifani, but actually this also happens at the daytime. Only difference is that light reaction requires light for splitting of water molecules and to produce ATP and NADPH. Whereas dark reaction or carbon reaction does not directly require light. It depends on the products of light reaction, that is ATP and NADPH, but doesn't directly require light. This reaction happens in certain membranes which are called as thylakoid membranes. So we also call this process as light reaction as thylakoid reaction. And this process occurs in stroma, that is aqueous medium outside these thylakoid membranes, which contains certain enzymes for carbon dioxide fixation like rubisco enzyme. And these two processes are interlinked because the carbon or dark reaction requires ATP and NADPH, which are produced in light reaction, and the light reaction requires ADP, adenosine diphosphate, and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, NADP, which are produced, which are the products of dark reaction or carbon reaction. So in this way, the light reaction and the dark reaction are coupled and they cannot operate independently. For example, if at some time of the day, for example, around noon, there is uh, little water available in the root zone and plants close their stomata to restrict carbon dioxide supply, uh, then it means that plant is not producing sufficient ATP and NADP. Then the light reaction will also stop. So that is how these two sets of reactions, light reaction and dark reaction, are coupled or they are interlinked with each So this is a general overview of the process of photosynthesis. I would like to summarize it that photosynthesis is the process by which certain organisms like plants, algae, and cyanobacteria convert light energy into chemical energy, which is stored as organic molecules. We depend on the process of photosynthesis for food, for oxygen, and the process of photosynthesis was also a source of fossil fuels. Uh, the raw material for this process of photosynthesis are carbon dioxide and water. And the first product of photosynthesis is a 3 carbon sugar, a triose phosphate, that can be stored within the chloroplast or exported to cytoplasm or can be used to regenerate the first carbon dioxide acceptor molecule, RUPP. Photosynthesis is a complex process that can be divided into two sets of reactions. One is light dependent reactions and the other is light independent reaction, which we call as a dark reaction or carbon reaction. And both light reaction and dark reaction are coupled with each other. In the next lecture, I will talk about the site of photosynthesis, the light, the pigments, and different carbon dioxide reduction pathways or cycle, for example, C3 cycle, C4, and CAP pathway.